The NFL and your Super Bowl champion Seahawks, who hosted their victory parade yesterday. QB Sam Darnold made sure to thank his team and the fans for their belief in him amongst the doubt this season. Linebacker Ernest Jones IV had a different kind of message for Darnold's haters with his shirt and this message at the podium.
Shout out to these bad who play this game the right way. Hey, not only do we have the best defense in the world, we got the best team in the world. And quite frankly, if you got anything to say about my quarterback, you got anything to say about defense, you got anything to say about our O-line, and you got anything to say about the city of Seattle, I got two words for you. You.
If you ever wondered what a Super Bowl parade directed by Quentin Tarantino looked like, there you go. Thought he was going to go the DX route there, but we went a different direction. All right, Lewis, Hawk, Jeremy, let's dig down on this. Lewis, we'll begin with you.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, still not getting enough credit despite the Super Bowl win?
Look, I think Sam is still trying to outrun the reputation that there's going to be some on this desk who say he deserves or that he earned going back to his days in New York in 18 and 19, and then the time that he had in Carolina under Matt Rule. And then, the kind of journey that he went on after that, going from San Francisco to Minnesota, and then finally, winding up here in Seattle and becoming a Super Bowl champion. That's a very windy road, and it's not a very linear path as far as his path to stardom. And that, I think a lot of people are still looking at that and going, hey, look, we're going to use that as fuel to continuously question this young man. But look, in this Super Bowl, in the biggest moment of his life, he put a lot of that to rest. He came out in the game early on firing this football and putting it in some very, very, unique positions as far as his accuracy. And then showing the courage that he showed in the pocket. This strike here to Rashid Shaheed. And then here, he's got Milton Williams on a free runner right down the pipe at him, and he's able to scramble, keep his wits about him, protect the football, pick up a first down, pick up 10 yards. Those are the kind of things that I remember Sam Darnold, I remember him for now. Look, I understand there were some very rough times for him early on in his career. But one of the things that we talk about all the time on this desk and on various shows is how interdependent football is as a game, and how important coaching is, how important surroundings are, how important the culture is in which you were drafted into. He is in the best culture for him now, and I think we need to judge him accordingly now and kind of stop holding him to some of the old standards that we held him to and kind of holding some of the things that he struggled with early on in his career against him.
Kind of the tale of two careers with what we saw at first and now what we've seen. Do you agree with Lewis?
To a point, but he's received, I think, an appropriate amount of skepticism because he earned some of that. It was about 4 or 5 years of not very good play, not only with the Jets, Carolina Panthers wasn't great. So with any NFL player, you need proof of concept. He did it 1 year in Minnesota. That wasn't enough. There's still some skepticism. Needed a second year. I look at Ernest Jones in those comments. I'm like, where's the hate? I haven't seen a lot of hate. I think the NFL community kind of protects Sam Darnold a little bit. He's a very good quarterback, and he's earned that right. But it took some time. And other than Puka Nakua's tweet kind of criticizing Darnold, I haven't seen a lot of that. I think he's sort of been paraded the last few weeks as the guy who catalyzed that Super Bowl run.
Hawk, jump in here. Your thoughts?
I'm somewhere in the middle. He was tough to watch early on, but there were circumstances. Every quarterback that has come through the New York Jets, honestly, over the last decade has been tough to watch, including Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the most talented quarterbacks in NFL history. When you look at what Sam Darnold has done over the last 2 years, to Lewis's point, there is some kind of narrative that any quarterback could have went in there and won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. That is not the case, because any quarterback cannot go and throw for, on average, over the 2 seasons, 4,100 plus yards and 30 touchdowns between 2 different offenses and 2 different organizations. There's also a narrative that it was KOC was the reason why he did so well last year. And even this year, there is some Kubiak kind of talk of saying, oh, Kubiak got him where he needs to be. He's been in 4 different offenses in 4 years. He has developed. He is a different quarterback than he was when he came into the league. And the people who are still viewing him as the old Sam Darnold are the ones seeing ghosts.
I think part of the problem when it comes to the Darnold evaluation, not for players, not for reporters, people around it, fans, is that we've become conditioned to a certain style of quarterback play being the only play that can win. 14 of the last 25 Super Bowls have featured either Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. That's kind of what gets drilled into our mind, that that's what it's got to look like in order to get a win. So when Darnold comes around and wins, it kind of throws us all through a loop.
Yeah, well, see, you know what, even to some degree, even though Tom obviously came into the league and started having success right away as a regular starter, Look, even he was someone who there's still debate about whether or not in his early years in New England, was it how much of it was him? How much was it, the fact that they had one of the stronger defenses in the league, had one of the best coaches in the league. He played with multiple Hall of Famers. And so people go, well, was it Tom or was it the system? And it wasn't really until he got to Tampa Bay that he was able to kind of get that off of his back and go and win a Super Bowl at a different place, different set of teammates, different coaching staff that we sit there and we go, man, this guy really is the damn GOAT. He really is the GOAT individually in terms of what he's able to accomplish at a different place. And then all that long sustained run of team success. That's what football is. Football is an interdependent sport. It's a team sport. And see, we have this desire to constantly want to pull people out in order to praise them or blame them. But then at the same time, the reason why we love football is because it is a team sport. Because you do have parades like that where guys are up there just putting up 4-letter words all the time and kind of showing you who they really are as far as their excitement. That's why we love this game. That's how we need to really evaluate this game.
Quick final word.
The other thing I'll say is what we've seen from Sam Darnold is something that is rare in the NFL is we're watching him get better. And that's what's hard for people to wrap their mind around because they think when you get to the NFL, you're a finished product. And Sam Darnold came in at 20 years old. He hadn't had a lot of games playing. That's why you're seeing a different version now than you saw earlier in the Jets.
Very well said. Nice start, gentlemen.
Jeremy,
start us off.
Come on, Hawk. You got to help me out with that.
Dolphins.
That's on me, Lou.
Let's do it. Tua. Miami
That's on me.
Dolphins are weighing whether to keep Tua or to move on via a trade or release. He's owed $54 million in guarantees, so they could convert that into a signing bonus, get the cap hit down. But the prevailing theme in league circles is that new GM John Eric Sullivan loves draft picks, comes from the Green Bay Packers tree, who's going to try to do whatever he can to get some more picks. And that includes trading Tua or maybe even some other pieces. So could be on the move. Plenty of teams need a bridge quarterback option. So we'll see what happens there. He's also had some durability concerns, so we'll see if that scares teams away and move on from there. Then you got George Pickens. So the Cowboys are expected to franchise tag George Pickens at around $28 million or so. Sounds like a nice lump sum of money, but Pickens might not be so keen on that. He might wait to sign that franchise tag, make things difficult, stay away from team activities, and they'll play the song and dance of whether they can get a long-term deal done. My sense is Dallas does want to keep him, although I don't think a trade is off the table if this gets real sticky. Then you got Maxx Crosby. Let's do it. We got the Raiders. There would be a ton of interest down the street. 20 or so teams would at least call, if they haven't already, on Maxx Crosby, and that's my sense, is they certainly have called informally because the interest would be massive if they're willing to trade him. But they haven't gone down that road yet. They have to sit down and talk with Crosby, Raiders front office, new coach Clint Kubiak, and really sort out what does he want and what do they want out of this relationship. He has not asked for a trade. A source close to Crosby did tell me, though, he simply wants a winner, however that comes.
Lewis, you need good players to win football games.
Yeah.
Maxx Crosby is a damn good player. The Raiders have few good players. You would think they'd stay together, but are they better off trading them? Should that be the move?
Look, I think they have to strongly consider it. They need a lot of pieces, This is not a 1 or 2 year rebuild. This may be a 3-year type of rebuild, although you could see them getting it done in 2 if they hit on draft picks at a much higher success rate than what they have over the past year in particular under new GM John Spytek. But he knows they're going to have to knock it out of the park, but they need assets. They need assets in terms of draft picks in order to knock it out of the park. Maxx would bring those in. He's going to be 29 years old. This is a guy who is a culture driver, okay? Not just a good football player, but he is the consummate football player, the throwback type of guy at a premium position, at arguably the second most important position in all of football, regardless of what level you're talking about. So I think, obviously, there's a reason why 20 teams, upwards of 20 teams would be calling on a guy like this, considering the potential that they could acquire him and what he would bring to this football team. If I'm the Raiders, I'm definitely considering it. Yeah. You hate to lose a guy like that who you would like to see him become another one of those long list of heralded lifelong Oakland, LA, Las Vegas type Raiders. But I think this may be the best move for the team in the long run.
Hawk, I want to get your thoughts on this in just a second, but you had something interesting in your notes about the teams that could be interested in Crosby. Who would get the most aggressive?
I've got my list of teams that make sense, fundamentally make sense from an attitude, edge standpoint with Crosby. I have the Detroit Lions, because he's want to go to a winner. They need edge help. Opposite Aiden Hutchinson would be crazy.
Played at Eastern Michigan.
That's right. That's right.
Shout out.
Baltimore, you should have done the trivia, though. Maybe you would have got it.
I tried to help him. I'm the reason he missed it, but go ahead.
Baltimore Ravens desperately need pass rush help. Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman never shies away from a deal. And here are two that are really interesting with help from Hembo. Dallas Cowboys LA Rams both have 2 first-round picks. They're armed with capital to maybe make this done. Now, the Cowboys were trying to get in on Crosby at the trade deadline. They made the call to Las Vegas. Las Vegas wasn't moving on him. So one to watch. And you look at the Rams, you say, hey, they're close to a Super Bowl. They have a good defensive line. They need secondary help, but what helps the secondary? The pass rush of Maxx Crosby.
All right, so let's drill down on the idea of Dallas. You got the George Pickens situation, which is one thing. Maxx Crosby's sitting out there. You need defensive help. Where would you be better off going?
You know what? I remember the old Jerry Jones, Deion Sanders commercial where it was like, what do you do, 15, 20 mil, and he said both? That's where I'm at. I think you get both of them done. Yeah. And I don't know from a cap standpoint if you're able to get George Pickens a long-term deal, especially if he's trying to get upper-tier number 1 money. But I think the situation you have him in, whereas he's going to play on the franchise tag, and I don't think from a public perception point of view, he's going to be able to sit out games because he doesn't want the franchise tag. He's going to have to put another season together where he goes ballistic like he did a year ago, and maybe that gives you the opportunity to go get Crosby as well as still have Pickens in place for your offense, because we've never seen Dak better than when we've seen him with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens on the other side and making defenses and secondaries play them honest.
Lewis, best approach for Dallas here. Do you try to get something done long-term with Pickens? Do you try to franchise and bring in Crosby? How do you handle the mix between the two?
I think it's the latter. I think trying to franchise him and bring in, a guy like Maxx Crosby is probably ultimately what's going to wind up happening, although you would like to get some salary cap relief on a long-term deal instead of having to eat upwards of almost $30 million, in the high 20s as far as the franchise tag is concerned for him. But look, I think it's going to be tough. This is going to be a tough situation for them concerning trying to get George under contract because of the fact that, look, he's going to want 1A type of money, 1B type of money, which is pushing $30 million per year. And CD is already on the books for 30 plus. There isn't a team in the NFL that has 2 wide receivers making an average per year of over $30 million. And I don't think Dallas is going to be the first one. So I think here, when you look at this and you look at the depth at wide receiver in the draft this year, and you look at how you see young wide receivers continuing to come into the league and really make their mark earlier on in their career, which wasn't always the case. Yeah. I think you may be looking at this as going, hey, look, pass rusher is something that you cannot turn down. A guy like Maxx Crosby could really talk about an edge. Think about the edge he would bring to their defense, which is a defense that we have oftentimes criticized for being soft, not being a team that shows up in November and December when the chips are on the line. That is not Maxx. Maxx is the consummate football player. So if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm going, look, that guy out there in Las Vegas, we need to make a run at that dude now.
Hawk, if they can pull off what you're suggesting, the idea of Pickens coming back on the franchise and he plays, and you get Maxx Crosby, top of the heap in the NFC? Are we talking legitimate Super Bowl contenders here?
I think it definitely has the makings of a complete flip. Right? Especially, there's going to be good teams. Obviously, you have the Seattle Seahawks coming back. The Los Angeles Rams are going to be great. The Eagles are very talented. But this does change the face of this defense. And when the offense was rolling at the clip they were rolling this year, they just needed a little bit of help. And they could have been contenders, especially in that division. I think Maxx Crosby does that.
Almost feels like we might be talking about the Cowboys a little bit this summer. But we'll see.